Susan Walter, welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. Very glad that you're able to be a guest on. Someone tells me maybe you were recommended as a friend by someone, and as soon as I saw the artwork on your Facebook page and your website, as well as the singing bowl picture there, I love Tibetan singing bowls. It's a wonderful thing, um, and great to have you on. I'll give you the chance to tell your life story from a primary source perspective to start off the interview. Only got an hour, so maybe not take too long there, but it does set the tone for anybody that's never heard about you to hear who you are and what you experience from a primary source perspective to understand why you do the work that you do. And then I'll get into some really nitty gritty, serious metaphysical and spiritual questions about art and everything else that you could possibly cover. Just a quick little disclaimer for my listeners, though. This show, I haven't uploaded any show to YouTube in a little over a month. My excuse for why that's the case is because I am waiting in the wings for them to approve my channel for monetization through advertisements. And I have a feeling that if I don't upload anything to YouTube, then that's not going to give them any incentive to use any of the sensitive information that I expose in my shows as incentive to not let my show get uploaded for monetization, because you don't have freedom of speech in this day anymore when it comes to YouTube, and I don't want that to cost me. However, having 5 interviews on my to upload to YouTube list already, I can't really afford to wait much longer. I know my listeners are chomping at the bit, so probably by the end of this week, even if they haven't been monetized, I will upload one show, and then maybe once every 4 or 5 days get all the shows uploaded until I finally catch up to the present time with this show and all the others that I'll be doing. So also, folks, you'll have to pay me to listen to my shows now. Not all the shows, not all for the show. The first 60 to 75 at the most 75% of the show will be free of charge, and then you'll have to pay me on Patreon to be able to access the links to listen to the show in its entirety. So that being said, I've babbled long enough. Susan Walter, thank you for coming on. Healing art with a conscious heart is your motto, it seems. So why don't you tell us who you are from a primary source perspective, what you experience that causes you to do the stuff that you do and the work that you do. You've got the floor. I don't have Alex Jones-itis. I don't interrupt my guests, so I will shut up and put myself on mute and let you talk as much as you not. Well, say as much as you want, but please don't take too long, because we've only got an hour now, and I want to get into some really nitty-gritty metaphysical questions. So you've got the floor. Knock yourself out.
First, Andy, thank you very much for inviting me on the show. I feel honored. As to what kind of led me down this path, that actually started at the ages of 4, where I actually had near-death experiences both at 4 and again at 6, where I was introduced to some of my own angels. And from there, I was able to just see at least my personal angels all the time. And to be honest, growing up, didn't really realize that everybody didn't see what I was experiencing till I was probably in my 20s before I realized that not everybody saw what I did. And then in 1997, actually in January, I realized I wasn't seeing just my own angels anymore. I was seeing everybody else's. And the first thing my first opportunity, because I had 4 children at the time and was a stay-at-home mom, that I sat down in meditation, was asking, what's going on here? What am I supposed to do with this? Why me? All those questions that I think anybody would ask in that situation. And my angels were very adamant that I was to find a way to draw or paint the angels and to share that with people and to help them connect with their own personal angels. And not being an artist, I actually spent the first probably 6 months from there arguing with my angels about, there's got to be somebody better than me, somebody that has more time, somebody that actually knows what the heck they're doing. They were very adamant that this was something that I was to do. So I started playing with different mediums, first watercolors. That didn't work very well, particularly with the children. Then I used pastels for the first, probably 3 years approximately as I did the angel portraits. And I now use color pencil. Just partly because I was able to get more of the detail that I was seeing. And as it's continued to evolve and change over the years, and now as I draw the angels, their arms are always outstretched as they're ready to embrace or exchange energy with someone whenever they need it. I might see what looks like or similar to a breastplate. When I see that, I know that it is your main guardian angel, the one that's been with you not just this lifetime, but all of your lifetimes in physical form. And the last, it's getting almost 3 years now that I started seeing light language down the center of the body, usually starting at the throat. And that is a message from your angels to your higher self. So it is not something that you need to consciously understand, but a part of you already gets the message the moment you see it. And then the last detail I get when doing an angel portrait is the name. Now their names, their true names would take us approximately 15 to 20 minutes to pronounce. But they spell for me a small piece of that. And then the pronunciation is what feels right for that person. There's really no right or wrong. But if they want, because they are not normal names like Bob and Ruth or what, they're more in their native, the language that they use to speak among themselves. So they can be very unusual. So if you want to abbreviate them further, that's okay too. I've even had some people just use, one letter. It's, whatever works for you. The main thing with the angels is once you receive a portrait is to keep it someplace where you can see it every day. Let's see, what are some of the other things I can tell you about that? And one of the most important things, if you want to communicate with your angels, is for you to start communicating with them. And Andrew, I know you had a number of questions for me that you wanted to ask. We go ahead and go with that.
All right, fair enough. If like I said, I've only got an hour, so a primary source perspective to set the tone doesn't need to be given too long. So regarding angels, I have been told that I've got quite a lot of angels around me. So a couple of people even told me they see Archangel Michael going nuts around me, like they've never seen Archangel Michael go nuts before. So it's great to know that they're on my side. Now, so you're actually perceiving them, or are you? Is it hard to perceive them because they're of a higher consciousness frequency that's not something we can't adequately imagine in this 3D reality?
Well, for me, it's gotten to be quite easy, but I know when I first look at somebody, because at first I did perceive them in full form all the time, but that was a bit overwhelming to even just go do things like simple things like going to the grocery store. So I've learned to turn the volume down, and I now see them all the time. It's like spheres of color that's just constantly moving. And then when I set with someone with the intention of doing their portrait, then just one will kind of step forward and take shape and define color for me. And that's how I know which one to draw. But I do see them very transparent. It's almost that ray of sunshine you see kind of coming down between the clouds, how transparent that is. That's how transparent and how luminous I see them. I do draw them more intensely than I see them, partly because, I want you to be able to see the drawing across the room. But yeah, so I do see them with what most people refer to as 3D eyes.
Yes, because some entities like Cryon say the perspective of them having big wings and halos and big gowns of white material. That's just the way that we can imagine it. But when you really get down to it, these are higher level, much higher level consciousness entities that we can't adequately imagine. But you seem to say, well, there is ways to imagine it in some degree. So
Mhm.
now your motto, healing art with a conscious heart, art that fills the heart. I love that, love the rhyme and all that. Um, Wanted to point out though that I have a memory of in freshman year of high school, there was this course brought to break koozie that we were taking, where one of the one class day we were asked to get in a group and define the word art. And one thing I remember from that is we discovered after that assignment was given to us that it was almost an impossible assignment because nobody could really come up with a valid universal definition of what art actually is. Now, to confuse the matter for me, I have been called an artist by many people who have done readings on me and say you're an artist, make the most of it. Well, I'm not really the kind of guy that's gonna take out a paper and paint and pencils and stuff like that and draw and color in my free time. I did make a painting of a vineyard when United Airlines Mileage Plus program had this paint a vineyard with someone as part of their membership thing that they gave out, and I made a glorifying piece of art that I hang up in my room and all that. But that's like the exception when it comes to using art tools to make art and all that. I'm more of a music guy. When I go out in nature, I go out in nature a lot. I like to bring my recorder with me. The recorder we all played when we were in third grade, and play music, but I'm not really the kind of guy who paints things like that. And yet I've been called an artist by many people. So that raises the question: how can one be an artist if they're not if their hobbies don't really include using art material that you see in an art class, like in a schoolroom, to paint and color and whatnot. And after you answer that question for me, how do you define the word art, which is a word that people find that they have such a hard time finding a definition of?
I believe that music is just a different medium. My daughter is a baker. She's just that's a different medium. I think limiting art to paint and pencils and things like that um, doesn't art encompasses so much more than that. Yeah, it's more art is more about, I think, the soul of the person and the way of um, sharing a part of themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sharing a part of yourself. So if you want to define art, it's a well, when I've been told I'm an artist and I try to figure out what that means, and I've looked up the definitions of art that Merriam-Webster dictionary has to offer, it seems like the one that they're trying to most associate with me is the kind of guy that will look at his surroundings and his environment and try to intermingle with that environment in a way that's more intense and profound than the average person would. But that seems to be a different form of art than the kind that you're talking about, in which someone creates or depicts something that's their feelings or their attitude or mentality. So is it kind of a multi-definition word in the best way? So there really is no way to come up with a strict definition because there are different ways of defining it. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, the use of different mediums. Yeah, you are an artist with, by using music and using nature and incorporating that. That's definitely, the heart of an artist.
Thank you. Let's switch gears for a moment here. Solfeggio crystal singing bowl meditation. Okay, I said Tibetan bowls. I think that's wrong. You don't use Tibetan bowls. These are
Yeah, I use crystal singing bowls.
Yes, and I was at a event this past Saturday. There was a festival, a oneness festival, where the lady played with the crystal bowls, and it was very relaxing and very enjoyable. So now the frequencies of the crystal bowls, is it by is it a number? Is it a note? How do they define what a crystal bowl sounds like? Is it like they said,
Um,
numbers, notes, or a little bit of both?
it is a little bit of both. Yeah, most of the bowls out there just go by note. Once in a while, they find that some of the crystal bowls do hit, they all hit a specific hertz frequency as well. But I'm specifically work with the ones that are Solfeggio frequencies. Solfeggio frequencies are all 3-digit numbers that when you add those numbers up, they always add up to 3, 6, and 9, which are the frequencies, some of these frequencies are the frequencies used to sing our universe into existence. Therefore, they can help us realign with our original blueprint and reactivate some of our what's often referred to as junk DNA. I think dormant is really a much more accurate term. It's because it's really just DNA that's been like turned off. So it's they're a tool to help us learn to turn that DNA back on. And there are many tools that can help do that. This is just one of them.
All right, let's get into the solfeggio frequencies a little bit. There was well, first of all, there are two audios that I have that I seem to listen to on an everyday basis. One of them is not actually a solfeggio frequency; it's the 432 hertz, which is not solfeggio, one of the solfeggios, but is
No, yes, it is. Yes, the
I thought
32 is.
417 was one of the solfeggio frequencies, and
They
432
both,
is kind of
they
help.
both are. There's 9 sets of 9 frequencies. There's a total of 81 solfeggio frequencies.
Oh, really? Now you're getting into something that's kind of a little new to me here, because when I hear of solfeggios, I think of 396 or 369, or is it 396 as the first one, and then 963 as being the highest, and people actually seem to associate those frequencies with the chakras. But is that a proper association when you're talking about the frequencies having a much higher number, because there's so many more of them, just like how there's many more chakras and we only seem to focus on the main 7 in this reality, which some say
Right,
is kind
yeah.
of suppressing. So how do you make sense of that? Knowing that
Uh,
there's many more frequencies, and but we're not really.
the frequencies you're talking about are specifically what's called the earthly solfeggio frequencies. So it's just one of those 9 sets. 432 is part of what's called the natural solfeggio frequency set. The angelic solfeggio frequency set is like those triple digits, like 111, 222, etc. So, yeah, there's just a number. There's a lot more of them than most people are aware of. And it took me quite a bit of research to actually figure all this out.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out a lot myself. I did watch a interview recently with Santos Bonacci. He's mentioned his name nowadays. You're going to get a lot of people roll their eyes because he's become the poster boy for the flat Earth theory, which makes people think he's lost his marbles. But there's some things he talks about that's really enlightening, I must say. And he talked about how 432 and 528 seem to be two frequencies that are extremely worthwhile listening to, and those are the two frequencies that I seem to listen to on an everyday basis with some audios that I downloaded from a program back in the day. Now, the 528 one, I seem to recall that being associated a lot with DNA repair and activation more so than the other frequencies. Is that right? And if that is right, then could one make the argument that the reason that frequency is totally worth listening to, maybe more than the others, is because our DNA has been suppressed by a system of domination and control, and if we want to beat the system, we need to upload our DNA.
Yes, I agree. If you're only going to work with 2 solfeggio frequencies, those are the 2 I would work with. Because 432 is what we should be tuning our instruments to instead of 440. It's much more healing. And you know, it's even our own sun that puts off frequency 528.
Our
Yeah,
sun puts off 528. That's kind of new to me. I actually have a audio sounds of the sun that I play, and I've never actually I'm gonna have to listen to that and compare it to the 528 one and see if I notice any similarities, because I never actually heard that before. Now, some people would say if you really want to get serious about your expanding your consciousness, you need to go with the big enchilada high frequencies like the 963 or whatever it is. But is that getting a little too intense? Is this a case where bigger in terms of the number is not necessarily better? And if it's not better, then what is a better way of describing the bigger the number, the frequency in terms of how it can help you? If you get what I'm trying to ask here.
Yeah, I think we need to let go of the higher lower, because that insinuates that something is better than another. Faster slower, I think, is a much more accurate way to look at it. You know, we can have our heart and throat and third eye and crown chakra completely open. But if you're not grounded, if you don't have your root and sacral and solar plexus also open and activated, you know, you're not grounding it, and so you're not bringing it into your reality. So, you know, and you're probably stressed and, you know, flighty and not able, you know, having difficulty functioning with day-to-day life. So, you know, we need to work with all the frequencies and all of the chakras to be fully grounded and fully integrate all of this information. Does that make sense?
Yes. Also, when it comes to listening to these solfeggio frequencies, some try to like go a little overboard here by listening to some meditations that have the frequency plus sounds of nature, among other things, which it sounds pretty and all. But is there any truth to the idea that even if you can handle a lot of things at once, you're kind of, when you incorporate other sounds, you're kind of damaging the true essence of the solfeggio frequency, because the solfeggio frequency, perhaps maybe it wants you to just hear the frequency to get the most of it, rather than incorporating other beautiful sounds like the sounds of nature. Is there really no set in stone rule about that, or is just different things work for different people, or do the solfeggio frequencies, is there actually a case you can make that if you're going to work with the frequencies, it's better to just work with the frequency and not try to incorporate other beautiful sounds, even if you feel that you're the kind of person that can handle a lot of things at once?
I think a lot of nature is going to be on its own and a solfeggio frequency, but and I know it from, because I've created mandalas based on many of the, you know, these solfeggio frequencies, and I listen to that frequency as I'm working on it. And if you're listening to just one solfeggio frequency and just kind of listening to that tone, after a while, it's kind of starts sounding, you know, just one tone is going to sound like a tornado siren after a while. It's just, yeah, you need to incorporate other frequencies, yeah, and other sounds with it. Yeah, and I think a lot of that, it could be distracting, but I think it's more, yeah, if it was, that music was created with a proper intent and with the musical instruments being tuned to 432, I think they're still going to hold the original intention.
Yes, and speaking of that 432 frequency and how you mentioned it's supposed to be what our frequency orchestras are tuned to. I keep hearing that, and I think, okay, well, when are we going to see the day where that happens? How much longer do we have to deal with the unpleasantness of 440 hertz and our orchestras and bands being tuned to that frequency and having to listen to that when it shouldn't be that? Is there actually any movement on Earth going on right now that you know of that's actually going to try to make an effort to get our bands and orchestras out there that everybody pays to listen to be able to tune themselves to 432 to actually get it right? Or is it going to be for a much longer period of time where for a while you can expect the conductors who are brainwashed, talented but brainwashed, to say, you don't know what we're talking about, this, you're making a big stink out of nothing, let's just stick with 440 and keep it, we don't need to make any difference. Well, will there be a day, and when do you see that day, when we can actually get see our music turned to 432 as it should be to make things a lot more pleasant and harmonious?
I think we will, and I think it'll happen in our lifetimes. We already have some artists out there that are using 432, and I think the more musicians that become aware of it, I think more and more of them are slowly switching to using 432. And I know I've spoken to some of a couple of former musicians from the Kansas City Symphony here, because Kansas City is where I'm presently live. But many of them are slowly tuning their instruments even there to 432, because they started doing it originally because they found it to be more pleasant themselves. But now that they, I've shared information with them, they're going, oh, okay, now that makes sense why it was more pleasant for them. So it is slowly happening, particularly within a lot of the I think the more new age meditation type music is where you will see it the most right now.
I'm glad to hear that. Okay, jumping off on a completely different tangent here. You mentioned you're from Kansas City. This is I'd like to get my geography a little straight here. It's interesting how shortly before the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, we know they lost the recent Super Bowl to that bastard Tom Brady. Nobody likes him, and
Yeah.
everybody except San Francisco 49ers fans wanted Andy Reid to finally win his first championship after all he's been through with those down years as the Eagles, and I know all about that because I'm from Philly. But the Kansas City, I had a dream like a few days before the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, in which I was in Kansas City, but I asked one of the people in the dream, so am I in the Kansas part or the Missouri part? I actually asked that because my geography on that is a little rusty. How exactly does that work? The Kansas City is in both Kansas and Missouri. Can you please make sense of that? Because I'm a little stumped on that. I never got a chance to research that.
The Kansas City that most people know about is on the Missouri side. There is also a Kansas City, Kansas. It's considerably smaller. Um, and there is actually even a North Kansas City, Missouri. So there's actually three separate cities that use the name Kansas City. And then, of course, all straddling the state line. But and then, of course, there's suburbs, surrounding both on the Kansas and the Missouri border. And yes, we have a road called State Line Road going right down the middle of all of it.
Interesting, interesting. All right, so they'll get away from the geography and back to the metaphysical and spiritual stuff here. You have a bunch of things that you sell. Guess I'll give you the chance here to make a sales pitch out of this if you want, regarding some of the meditations that you offer. The ones that offer chakra in addition to singing bowls are a little more expensive. I shouldn't use the word expensive, just cost a little more money. But when it comes to chakras, there are those out there who say really totally unnecessary. George Kavasilis, I can't help but pick on him with his claim that getting into the chakra thing is totally unnecessary. He says just go with the heart. If you go with the heart, you can't fail. I say more power to you if you can always go with the heart and not get bored. But considering that variety is the spice of life, I think you're kind of missing out on a lot of fun, not trying to get all your other chakras involved, especially considering that there's a lot of people coming out now with the chakras above the crown chakra that I've actually been working with in some meditations that I recently bought, like Soul Star and such chakra that are above the crown. So I presume you disagree with him, but why would you disagree with him in regards to his claim? Just screw the chakras, go with the heart. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain just by going with the heart.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not familiar with his work, so I can't, speak directly to it. But I know, like I said earlier, if you're not grounded, I think you're really truly missing out on a lot. But I think we have many, energy points, and chakras is just one of the terms for them. But activating those different energy points to work with, there's also things like the Chinese system of the meridians. I think these are all connected and part of it and work together. So I think if working with, not saying that the heart is not important, because it truly is, but I think there's more to it, and that's only a small piece of it. I think it's, getting caught up in the photograph and not looking at the whole picture.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've reached the 35-minute point of this interview. Don't know if I'll be going a full hour, maybe 45, 50 minutes we'll get to, but just want to make this point the point where to listen to this point of the interview on your folks are going to have to pay me on Patreon. So getting to your the artwork and the colors that you use. Now, color is a complete and total illusion in this reality. Well, everything, space and time are illusions, but when it comes to color, I remember this time in a college class I was in where the professor held up a green piece of paper and he said, "All right, everybody, what color is this?" And everybody said green, and he said, "Wrong. Everything in reality is actually black, white, or some shade of gray. What the color that reality really is supposed to look like is the way that reality would be deceived if it were depicted in a black and white movie from way back in the old days of movies. That's what colors would be if we did not have rods and cones in our eyes, which cause us to perceive colors in certain ways. Well, of course, colorblind people don't see things the way normal, so to speak, people do in terms of what colors are like. So, how does I'm not asking you to get into the science behind rods and cones and all that if you don't know how it works. If you do, maybe you can say something about it. But when you're dealing with colors, knowing that, does it really matter to you that in reality everything is actually what a black and white movie is supposed to look like, and it's all in the an illusion that one is seeing based on their rods and cone makeup, or if they're colorblind, being a little different? Do you make sense? Look at that in any way, or is it totally unrelated to your work?
I believe that different colors each hold a different frequency, a different tone within the, because to me, everything, is a frequency. An atom is an atom. It doesn't matter if it's in the chair you're sitting on or if it's in your heart. That an atom still has the exact same structure. It's all what frequency is vibrating at. And I think that's true of color as well. And I will say that during my near-death experiences that I had as a child, colors were even brighter and even more vivid, and even more shades of greens and blues and purples, and I think there are more colors that we are not able to see with the human eye.
Yeah, I'm sure there are too. Now, there's some people like Elizabeth Harper from the UK. I've downloaded her guide where she talks about what colors their powers are and what color clothing you should wear if you want to do this, and also what color when you should not wear this color if you're doing so and so. Interesting thing I noticed for this year, I'm a tiger in the Chinese zodiac, and I remember seeing in some YouTube video that this year, this year of the ox that we're in, one color that I shouldn't wear was actually, it's not a color, it's the absence of color. It's black. To be honest with you, I hear that, and every time I have like the option of wearing like a given color on a day that I'm supposed to wear relative to the work and all that. that I'm doing. If I have black shorts or a shirt that's black that has another color on it, I kind of want to say, yeah, screw the horoscope. I want to try to wear black and overpower that horoscope and show that I can wear black in this year and still have positive things come to me. Um, is that a smart idea, or am I playing with fire when I do that? Or do you have anything to say about that, where you hear that this is a color that you should avoid in this year, but I'm someone like I who's tempted to just want to wear that color anyway to try to live life to the fullest to prove the horoscope wrong. Any comments on that?
I think you should wear whatever color inspires you.
Simple as that, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, well, also the idea that certain colors aren't really supposed to mix together. Mark Passio, a former Church of Satan member turned whistleblower, actually said that there was a plot of sorts regarding making police officers wear blue and also to have the lights on their cars be red and blue. It's supposed to cause an imbalance in their consciousness. If police were actually wearing green and their lights on their cars were actually green, they would actually be a little less abusive of their authority than they would be, he asserts. And well, that raises the question, okay, was it stupid for us to choose our flag in America as red, white, and blue, because that's causing a huge imbalance in our consciousness in some way, having a flag that's that color. So this idea that mixing certain colors causes imbalance. Any comments there?
I think any color can be used to create balance or imbalance depending on partly on their intention. But green is probably always going to be more healing than a lot of the other colors, but I think anything in its proper use can, and proper intention, can help create balance. Because sometimes when you've, like mentioning chakras again, a chakra when it's underactive is too small, when it's overactive is too large. So color is one of many things you can use to help bring those two chakras back into balance with each other.